Yesterday or the day before, we talked about Donald Trump talking about how he would support an investigation into Nancy Pelosi for insider trading because, it doesn't make sense how some of these politicians, civil servants who have been in the government for decades can amass the obscene wealth that they have amassed. Now, this is not a question of being a commie and saying people should have caps on what they can and cannot make by way of money. Everybody should be able to make as much money as they possibly want and can within the bounds of the laws. And if they choose to be selfish bastards with that money, that is between them and a higher power. But Trump said, let's see, I would support investigating Nancy Pelosi and others, by the way. This is not a Democrat alone thing. This is pretty much a bipartisan form of corruption within the government that is already illegal, insider trading. There's something called the Stock Act of 2012, which prohibits insider trading using congressional knowledge to financially benefit yourself. The only problem is it's laxly enforced, and Trump is now putting it on blast. So much so that you had Nancy Pelosi, it sounds like almost having something of a meltdown during an interview with, who was it, Jake Tapper? Yeah, it's Jake the Fake Tapper. Nick Sortor, who always has a great Twitter feed, says, breaking, Nancy Pelosi just had an absolute meltdown when Jake Tapper brought up her insider trading. Alleged insider trading. This is incredible. Okay, this is Jake the Fake Tapper, Nancy Pelosi. I have not seen the full interview, but I don't really care to. They're both filthy propagandists, and Nancy Pelosi, as far as I'm concerned, in my humble opinion, is clearly and patently culpable of insider trading or circumventing the legal requirements for it. And I don't just say that as my own opinion out of thin air. Hashtag no defamation. She basically admits to it right in this clip that she is guilty of insider trading and circumventing the prohibitions in the 2012 Stock Act. Don't take my word for it. Trust but verify, or don't trust and verify. I like that better, actually. Listen to this.
Yeah, it was. Let me just read what he said. I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
Yeah, but I wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail. But because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that had been made over time. I'm not into it. My husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider. But the president has his own exposure, so he's always projecting. And let's not give him any more time on that, please. We're going forward here, and I'm very proud of my family. And while he might make fun of us, while somebody inspired by him breaks into our home and hits my husband in a deadly fashion, hits my husband over the head, and he thinks that's a riot, I'd rather not go into some of my other complaints about him right now. Rather to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid.
Does everybody appreciate the orgy of confession through projection, diversion, faux victimization, and the admission that she's doing exactly what Trump is accusing her of doing? It pains me. It's very difficult for me to shut my big mouth. That was what? That was 1 minute and 23 seconds? That felt like a lifetime. Let me replay this.
Yeah, it was. Let me just read what he said. I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to?
Look at this. Did you see her? Did you see the lip licking right there?
I'm sorry that we had some sort of technical issue. Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
That's what I agreed to come talk about. First of all, I don't know what Vulcan hand gesture she's doing right there, like throwing up West Coast gang signs. That's what I agreed to talk about. Do you understand what that basically, I mean, we all know this. They say, and I can tell you this from limited experience, if they think it's going to be a mildly adversarial interview, they will, what do you intend on asking? If they know it's going to be adversarial, sometimes they'll ask for a list of questions. Even if they think it's going to be a ass-kissing CNN propaganda interview, despite the fact that CNN has been trying its best to get a little more neutral, you understand right now that they put a list of topics for the purposes of discussion, and right now Jake the Fake Tapper apparently is deviating from the list of accepted topics that Nancy Pelosi agreed to when she came onto this show. Let's play this through because there's even more to it.
Agreed to come to talk
Yeah,
about.
but I
and
wanted
what
to,
that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail.
Pause it. First of all, do you know how many people have been prosecuted and gone to jail under the 2012 Stock Act? Let me just make sure that I'm sure about this. None! Sorry, I didn't mean to scream. None. If I'm wrong, someone in the chat, correct me while we're live. I triple checked across. 0 people have been convicted under the Stock. 0 congressmen have been convicted under the Stock Act. There was one dude relatively recently who was convicted for insider trading, but it wasn't under the Stock Act. It was because he passed on confidential information to his son, who then went on and made some trades to his profit. But it wasn't as a result of information he got through Congress. It was just insider information. None. Do you appreciate the idea that she says, yeah, I support it. I support it now that I've made all my wealth off of this. Sure, go ahead and do it. I got nothing to lose and I don't have much more to gain. She supports it now. Nobody's been prosecuted under the Stock Act, and there's a damn good reason for that. It is, in fact, bipartisan corruption. Let's let Nancy Pelosi make her bed and dig her own grave.
But because
metaphorically speaking, people.
Because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that have been made over time. I'm not into it. My husband is, but it is.
Pause it. I have no concern. I'm not into it. My husband is. Do you know what one of the methods with which they circumvent the Stock Act of 2012 is? Precisely because it becomes increasingly difficult for any investigator, insofar as they were ever inclined to investigate themselves. It becomes increasingly difficult to verify what friends, family, loved ones, relatives are doing with insider information that they are given by their spouse through their direct access through Congress. The fact that her husband does the trades and she says, oh, I'm not interested. I don't really care about this. I don't do it. My husband does. That is the layer of corruption, of plausible deniability, and how they circumvent it, which is why so few people have been prosecuted and none have been convicted under that act. Thank you for telling the quiet part out loud, Nancy. You're an idiot.
Isn't anything to do with anything insider, but the president has his own exposure. So
the president has his own exposure. The president is one of the few people who has not gotten rich during his time of public service. In fact, I would venture to say he's lost money as a result of it, though I know people are going to say, oh, whatever, he's made some money, he's gotten connections, whatever. When he gets out, when he gets out. Trump has not made money as a public servant, and he did not become a billionaire as a public servant or a multimillionaire like Pelosi, like the other guy there, Mitch McConnell, or it's Mitch McConnell, right? Listen to this confession through projection. It's glorious. Because confession through projection, and I appreciate it, when you accuse others of projecting, that's you projecting sometimes, but I appreciate people are going to say, Viva, then you're always projecting. No. I ask myself the question before I say anything. Am I projecting?
He's always projecting. He's always projecting. And let's not give him any more time on that, please. We're going forward here. And I'm very proud of my family. And while he might make fun of us, while somebody inspired by him breaks into our home and...
Pause. Victim. Do you see? She's done everything. Deflection, denial, protesteth too much. Did I say projection already? And then pretending to be the victim. Oh, one of his members, David DePape, a batshit crazy, illegal alien, Canadian, green card carrying, lefty, nudist, liberal nutbag, who as far, I agree, it's my theory, it's my personal opinion, it's a possibility that I would entertain, that he was in fact, I don't know, involved in some form of a relationship. There are very, very poignant, applicable, credible rumors of Nancy Pelosi's nightlife, Nancy Pelosi's husband's nightlife, whether or not this was in fact something of a relationship incident gone sour, not impossible. I'm not saying it as a matter of fact, but the idea that Nancy Pelosi, that scumbag, would suggest that this was a Trump extremist MAGA influenced man who attacked her husband for that reason, it's contrary to the truth, but she's making herself into the victim, her and her husband. Don't accuse my husband of insider trading. He got hit with a hammer by some dude. Every element of culpable deniability is coming out of this multimillionaire hag's mouth. Sorry, I'm being mean.
Hits my husband in a deadly fashion, hits my husband over the head, and he thinks that's a riot. I'd rather not go into some of my other...
Do you think that incident shields you, Nancy Pelosi, from accusations of insider trading? No. In fact, the fact that you even brought it up, then called the guy wrongly a Trump supporter, while saying, I don't do the insider trading, my husband does the trading. That's how they get around the law. Let me just make sure here. No current or former member of Congress has ever been criminally convicted, specifically for insider trading while serving in office. Despite numerous allegations and investigations, the Stock Act made it explicitly illegal for members of Congress to trade non-public information they gain through their official duties. Duties. There have been notable cases, but no convictions. The amazing thing is 3 of the 4 cases have been Republicans. And that's not to say the Republicans are innocent of it. It's just very interesting how the wheels of so-called justice and corruption work. Richard Burr sold $1.7 million in stocks after private COVID-19 briefing, February 2020. This one I talked about at length. Kelly Loeffler, Republican from Georgia, dumped millions after a private COVID-19 meeting. Dianne Feinstein and Jim Inhofe. Actually, there's 4 of the 5 are Republican. Also scrutinized over COVID-era trades. Chris Collins, he was the one who got convicted, but that wasn't for insider trading. It wasn't under the Stock Act. It was another. So investigations, no charges, nothing to see here. And Nancy Pelosi's husband is the one who does the trading. Thank you, Nancy, for telling us exactly how you circumvent the provisions of the Stock Act. Investigate her, Trump, investigate her. Now, let me go see what's going on in our chat at vivabarneslaw.locals.com. We got confession through projection, says a special SOV. David DePop, it was David DePop, says Jake Jacobs was a male hooker. I tend to agree with that. I don't know. I still have all my questions that I asked when I got my account locked on Twitter. How the hell did he get into that house without triggering any security? Why did it look like they somehow knew each other? What about the rumors of what Nancy Pelosi's husband is up to by way of nightlife? And whatever. I still got my questions. And I'm asking questions, yes, with an element of skepticism and suspicion. There is some dude who does stock advertising by following Pelosi's trades, says Dashman. They developed an app that literally tracks Pelosi's trades, and it does quite well. But by that time, look, the reality of the market is it is for insiders. By the time it reaches the retail investors like us, everybody's already made their money, and you're lucky if you can ride a little bit of what's left of the peak. But all right, set that aside. Over on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. That was good. And let's go to Rumble, because I just noticed a chat come in, a rant. Cultivated Mind says, now that you have these Chef IQ sensors, can you try making a slow smoked roast over 12 hours? Best meat you have ever tasted, Viva. I could do it. I can try it. But what do I have to roast it over fire or in an oven? I just like the fact that it's for chicken, because chicken is always the one where I get very nervous. And it's amazing.